Hello. Well, welcome to my Friday before the weekend videos with my newsletter. And today I'm in my house. I'm in my sunroom, which is the room that I paint in. So you're going to get a different perspective of who I am because I wanted to share some of my art with you. And if you hear any noise next to me, it's Sam and Charlotte are gated off in the other room. So you might hear my dogs. Okay, so this is where I paint. And it's not an ideal studio because it has beautiful bamboo floors. And typically I paint on the floor. I have used easels before too, and depending on the size of the painting, sometimes I just prop it up and paint, but generally I'm on the floor. And so in this room, I make sure to put down a big drop cloth, which protects this gorgeous floor. But I really love this room because of the light and the views. I get to hear the chickens. I have a big gate here so the puppies don't run in on my paintings. So come on over and I'm going to talk a little bit about my art. And most of you who follow my videos, my YouTube channel, and read my newsletters, you know that I'm a life coach and I work with women, typically over 50, who are overcoming loss in life. That's most of my clients. But here is who I really am. I have made art ever since I can remember, honestly. I think, maybe especially when I got into school, I was always drawing. And it was just my happy place. I was an only child growing up. And we lived in what was considered the countryside, kind of not many houses around us for a long time. Then this little subdivision got built up around us, so there were more people. But I was alone a lot. I was alone with my parents. My grandparents helped to raise me, and saw my cousins once in a while, but not very frequently. So drawing and art making was definitely my happy place. And I could spend an entire Friday night just filling up sketchbooks. And I like to draw objects around me. I would look at pictures and then represent them on paper. And I'm really good at representational art, I'll just say that. And I went to college to study art, then went on to, studied during college in the summertime, studied at the Art Students League in New York City, because I developed this passion for figure work and figure drawing. And it was something brand new to me in college. I had never really worked with the figure before. And once I had my first figure drawing class, I was absolutely sold. And a lot of my work at that time too was very gestural, which it still is. I'll show you in a different way. And if you know anything about drawing techniques and skills, gestural is a very fast way of representing an object, a figure, whatever you're drawing, representing it quickly with lines and with energy. And it was definitely my go-to style throughout college. And then after college, I actually began teaching art. I had no teaching classes before that, but I began teaching in a parochial school. And they gave me first grade through 8th grade students. And at that time, I love teaching. I love instructing. I love working with individuals in many different ways, even now. And so I went on and did a master's in art education from the Rhode Island School of Design, which was very interesting because at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design in Providence, Rhode Island, we took almost no methods courses in teaching. It was all our own studio work. And so I got to take more drawing and more painting. I took an architecture class and we did bricklaying in the streets of Providence, brick designs. And it was one of the most exciting experiences of my life to be at RISD. Met two of my very best friends. Shout out to Marla and Dottie, still my good friends. And yeah, it just really changed my way of thinking about the creative process. It really did. Anyway, I won't go into any more details. On and off, I have always taught art because, again, I love working with individuals and supporting a growth, let's say, in some way, whether it's a creative practice like art making or a personal development practice as I do in my coaching. So they do kind of fit together. And as some of you know, I've also studied yoga for, I've lost track of the years, probably about 35 years now, and have taught it too. And that also incorporates this mindfulness into my life and into my art. So let me just show you, because unlike my work, certainly in college, at the Art Students League, and at RISD, my work has really transformed. And it transformed when I was in my 50s, my early 50s. I went through a divorce and moved to teach at a college in Vermont, Goddard College. And I wanted to work more and more with the landscape. Now, I'm not going to touch this because it's mostly in oils and it's very wet still. But you can see there is a gestural quality even to my landscapes. And what happened for me at that time, as I began to feel so integrated into the landscape of Vermont, is that my work became more and more and more non-representational, abstract to a degree. So in this, you can kind of get an idea of the mountains and maybe the trees on the mountainside, and the sky is non-representational. And the way I work with color is to listen. You know, just as I do in other parts of my life, what I encourage women who are working with me to also listen, you know, to the passages and to the flow of our life. And so my colors, when I paint, are all kind of speaking to me. And I know that must sound very strange for some people if you don't paint and you don't work with color. But I look to, you know, a sense of the land, but then begin to abstract it and begin to choose colors that, again, are kind of just coming to me in the moment. You know, I do work from photographs at times, and when I do commissions, so I do a fair number of commissions at times, and I usually have individuals give me photographs, like some of their favorite landscapes or places that they love going to. I once did a commission for a woman who was a teacher, and her parents were having their anniversary, and she gave me photographs of these favorite places that her parents like to visit. And so I just kind of took those very clear representations of spaces and places and landscapes and took it to the canvas, and did an altered representation of it. You can, that noise in the background is Sam with his bone, if you hear that clunking sound. Okay, so you can maybe get a sense of how I work, and I do love commissions, and I like when I'm working on a commission with somebody, I like to get to know them, and get to know the spaces that they value. If the painting is for them, if it's for somebody else, again, having photographs to work from, I can still get a sense of the kinds of landscapes that people like to go into. I love living in Vermont. I mean, Vermont has so many options, you know, for landscapes and for very, very special places. This is a painting I'm doing now for somebody, and this person has bought some of my paintings in the past that were finished, and so I'm kind of working from that direction because this person, I think, wanted the same kinds of colors and design that he's purchased before. So, and this is coming along. The way I introduce the darks and the lights, the contrast, I look at the whole composition and again get a sense of the blocks and sections of colors, which those of you who know anything about artists and art history, you know, there's a whole area of study with Helen Frankenthaler's work, if you know her work, and like color block theorists that, you know, sections off the colors on the canvas. It's very, very non-representational kinds of work. And I really, I love that image. And I will also say that even though when I worked with the figure, and I very well may go back to working with the figure again, and I would start with a gestural drawing, that fast, free-flowing line. You keep it light. You just kind of keep working with it, just like a potter would work with clay. You just keep working with it. And then, as with the figure, because we have proportions, you know, in our bodies, of course, I would then take a theory that I learned at the Art Students League of sectioning off the different planes of the body to get that three-dimensional sculpting. You know, some of my early figure work can be seen in my book. If you buy my book, it's called Manifestations of Self Within Place, a Love Story in Pictures. And there's a lot of my paintings in there, and you can see some of my early drawings of the figure in there as well. I also believe that there's this very feminine quality to the mountains in Vermont, so that gestural, flowing, sensuous, feminine energy comes through, I believe, in my paintings. The other thing I'll say is, you know, I work on the floor, and I'm not sure why, but it's just more comfortable, and I feel like I can maybe have more of an aerial view of my painting too in some ways. And I also work a lot with knives, you know, palette knives. This one is a plastic one I use a lot, which, you know, is very flexible. Sometimes I go in with a brush and define certain areas with the brush first, and then take the knives. And I'm just going to show you, I think, on this painting. I also work a lot with my hands. So once I get the color down, I often will reshape it, smudge it, smear it, fade it, you know, into other colors, just using my hands. And then the other thing I use a lot are these oil sticks. So these golden is a great kind of acrylic paint that I use. I also have a set of oils. My paintings are often a combination of acrylic and oil, and these are oil sticks. Okay, if you can see them, I'll walk up close. This one's very well used. And so I'll just show you quickly. So when I use an oil stick, I'm going to bring this up to show you. I often will get the color on. Okay. Okay, now I either take a paper towel, which I don't think I have one nearby, or I just take my hands. Okay, so you can see this color. And then I'm doing this upside down, which I usually don't do it upside down, but I just begin to work the color. Now you could almost leave it. You could leave it without smudging it, but I do like to blend it a little bit. Sometimes I leave it for the richness and the texture. I'll just leave the oil that way, you know, and then I just kind of keep going. You can probably see that, okay? And this painting is not sold yet, and it's, so I'm going to play with it a little bit just to show you. I love teaching art, and haven't had a class for a long time. I used to have a studio back in Ohio where I would teach, and oh my goodness, at one point I was up to like 22, 23 private lessons a week, which was very difficult. Then I started putting some of my students into small groups, and they would come in that way. So I'll show you one more thing here. Let me figure out, I think I'm gonna go with this color. It's a very deep purple, and I'm just gonna put a little bit down. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my palette knife. Now you can see the color right here. I just squished it on. Now this is where I begin to work it with the knife. None of you can see this, but my dog Sam is right here, right here next to me. Maybe I should turn the camera, Sam, so you can say hello, huh? Okay, but this is, so, and this is hard. This is not like, I've had students get really frustrated. I get frustrated at times because, you know, working with a knife, you know, you have to just be very trusting, let's say, trusting. And again, sometimes I'll go in with my finger and just move it through, you know, blend it a little bit too, could blend it. And then, yeah, sometimes I get a little crazy with the color and just kind of move it all over the place. So, you know, probably what I'll do to this, because I'm feeling like that purple looks really good with the green, but I might be adding a darker, like maybe a black to it even, or a dark green to it to finish this off a little bit. And, you know, you can see the white up here. It's not quite dry yet, but that is how I work. And I just wanted to, you know, share this with you because you all watch my videos about transforming our lives, right? Taking control, feeling empowered in our lives, you know, but also being able to go with the flow of our lives. And I have always found that the making of art in some way is so healing, because for one thing, in order for it to heal, you need to let go of control. Okay, so just like with those palette knife, the knife I was just using, you know, there's only so much control. If you've ever worked with watercolors, it can be so frustrating, or you can let go of control of the process and let it flow. Let it flow. I also always advise my students to not be so critical, you know, in your work. I have more often than I can say painted over canvases, you know, if something hasn't sold, or I hang my work. You can see some of the work back there too, and it's all through the house. And I have some in a show right now too in Windsor, Vermont, and also in a show that's about to open in Plainfield, Vermont, near the college where I used to teach. Anyway, I hang it in order to live with it, you know, and to get a sense of how it feels hanging on the wall, or it could be leaning against the wall, like you can see back here too. And I highly encourage that. Like, instead of rushing to a judgment like, oh, I hate that, oh my goodness, Instead, allow yourself to just sit with the work. And again, I feel like a shift, maybe you do change it in some way. Maybe you do gesso over the canvas and start over. That's okay too. But not to be so critical, which is something that I always talk about in my coaching too. Don't be so self-critical, and to be able to just be kind and compassionate to yourself. If you can make art in some way, maybe it's as a musician, maybe it's in a dance. If you can allow yourself some space of creativity in your life, I know it's going to not just make you more well-rounded, but it's also going to support places in your heart that you can't tap into any other way. Any other way. The creative process is like that. But again, you want to also be able to trust that process and not rush to a conclusion, you know. So if by chance you ever want to work with me in an art class, you can contact me just like you contact me for coaching. We can discuss that, what it would look like. I have thought about starting a Zoom class like a certain time every week. If I do that, you'll all be the first to know. And I would love to have you participate in a class like that too. I miss my teaching a lot because I really valued supporting that creative process in my students, whether the young children all the way through adults. I had a wonderful experience. I'll say this and then I'll close. Shout out to this beautiful, beautiful woman, Sylvia, back in Ohio. Sylvia, I'm not going to totally guess how old she was, but she helped me with my daughter Rachel's hair. My daughter Rachel is African American, and I really struggled with braiding her hair and doing the cornrows and everything. And so I found Sylvia, and she and I had this barter system where Sylvia always wanted to make art. And so, which quite honestly, I told her she did make art, and the braiding she did, she had beautiful braiding. And so she would come to my house and braid Rachel's hair and work with that. And then I had a little studio on the property, and we'd go out there and then have like an hour of art. And let me tell you, after I moved from Ohio, Sylvia is still my Facebook friend, and Sylvia went on to art school. She was, I'm going to say in her 60s, like mid to late 60s when she went through art school, and she did amazing. And I know she's still making art. So even if you've never had an art class, you know, you should find a way of bringing it into your life. That's my suggestion for today. As you move into your weekend, I hope you're enormously creative and you have a beautiful weekend ahead of you. All right. Thank you for being a part of my Friday video.